Hi, Charlotte here. Today I'm going to be teaching you the basics of how to warm up to practice handstand along with some of my favorite handstand drills. Let's get started. There are 3 things that you need to focus on warming up before you practice handstands. First, the wrists, then the shoulders, and the core. We'll start with the wrists because they're your foundation. I'll teach you 2 exercises that you can do to warm up your wrists in preparation for handstand practice. The first one's really simple. So just to find a comfortable seat, I'm gonna sit with my legs crossed. Extend your hands out with your fingers nice and wide, and then make a fist and roll your wrists in one direction, 10 big circles. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you can do the same thing in the other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Almost there. And done. So once you get good at handstand, most of the play in your body is actually going to be in your fingers and wrists. So the next drill we'll do to warm up the wrists is one of my favorites because it kind of mimics the action that'll be occurring in your fingers and wrists when you're in handstand. So you're going to get on all fours. Put your palms shoulder width apart and your knees right underneath your hips so you're finding a tabletop position, just like if you were to do cat-cow in a yoga class. And then you're just going to shift your body weight forward and catch yourself with your fingertips before your shoulders extend too far past your wrists. And you'll go back and forth like this 10 times. And you should really be feeling the pressure in your fingertips. When you get too far, you're pressing into your fingertips and through the palms of your fingers to stabilize your body and stop yourself from falling too far forward. And this mimics the motion that should happen in your wrists and fingers if ever you find a little bit of instability in a static handstand. You're using your fingers and your wrists to toggle your weight around and find a good center of gravity. After 10 repetitions like that, your wrists should be nice and warm. You can do a couple circles again to loosen them up if you like, but not necessary. Next, we're gonna warm up the shoulders. There's a bunch of exercises you can do to warm up the shoulders, but my favorite is just a basic sequence that you would find in a normal yoga flow anyways. So you're going to begin in a plank position. From plank position, you're going to lower yourself down to chaturanga or low push-up. From low push-up, lift your chest through your shoulders, tuck your toes, and go to upward facing dog. And this is the really important part. You're gonna tuck your toes again, lift your hips up, and push your hips back to downward facing dog. Now this is where you should really tuck your low ribs in. So I'm gonna flare them out just so you can see what that looks like. And when you tuck your low ribs in, you're gonna engage your core and exhale to knit your ribs in. And that should really give you a stretch in the shoulder girdle. And then from here, we're gonna toggle down to high plank and back to downward facing dog 5 times. Two more times. Great. So that sequence was just a regular sun salutation, but you stop in the downward facing dog, find high plank, back to down dog 5 times. Okay, second exercise to warm up the shoulders. We're going to do a variation on child's pose, but with the focus on opening the shoulder girdle. So we all know child's pose, sitting the hips at the heels, knees together, walking the hands forward and out, and lowering the head down. If we're doing a variation of this to warm up the shoulders, you're going to find a prayer position. Put your elbows up by your head and then lower down and find contact between the elbows and the earth. And your hips are gonna lift up just a little bit. And you're gonna walk your elbows out until your hips are almost over your knees. And you're just gonna exhale and try to bring the chest toward the earth. And you can spend 5 to 10 breaths here as is comfortable. When you're ready to come out, extend the hands and just walk the hands back to the body. Okay, now that we've warmed up our wrists and we've warmed up our shoulders, it's time to warm up the core. The first exercise we'll do to warm up the core is a hollow body rocker or half moon pose. So let's sit the hips down first. Sit the hips down, lower your back toward the mat. Extend the legs out in front of you. Extend your arms up overhead, and then lift both your arms and your legs 3 inches off the mat and take 10 gentle rocks forward and backward. Woo! That one's hard. All right, that was our first exercise to warm up the core. And the second one is gonna be nice and easy, just focusing on lengthening and full body alignment. So you're gonna find a tabletop position. And we're gonna extend one arm and one leg at the same time, and they're gonna be the opposite arm and the opposite leg. And this will just force you to knit your core together while working on lengthening. So send one leg back and the other arm forward. And you're gonna wanna point your toe here to mimic what you'll do in handstand. And then from here, tap your knee to your elbow. Lengthen, and I like to hold for 10 seconds once lengthened after 5 to 10 repetitions. And then you can switch sides. Send the opposite leg back and the opposite arm forward and meet the elbow to the knee. And after 5 to 10 reps, hold for 10 seconds. And rest. All right, now we're finished with our warm-up. Let's get into some handstands. I'll show you 2 drills. The first one is basic and the second one is advanced. Let's get started. All right, now we're ready for our handstand drills. We're just gonna do 2 today. We've spent a good amount of time warming up. The first one you may have practiced before, but I wanna get into some particulars of your form. We're gonna kick up against the wall. So when you're kicking up against the wall in handstand, you don't want your hands to be right up against the wall. You want them about a foot back. I'll show you what it looks like first, and I'll actually explain some of the mechanics while I'm upside down. So you're gonna turn and face the wall. You're gonna envision where your hands are gonna go, and if you'd like, you can even put them down ahead of time. Anywhere from 6 inches to 1 foot away from the wall. And then your foot, whichever your takeoff foot is going to be your standing foot. So your dominant foot is going to stay on the ground when you're kicking up into handstand. This should also be the side you're most flexible on. So if I'm used to practicing the splits on my left side, my left foot is gonna stay on the ground. And first, to get ready, lift the other leg in the air, see how high you can get it, and bring it down a couple times. This is good prep so that your kick doesn't carry too much power, too much spice, and you don't hit the wall with that much oomph. So when you're ready here, you're going to hover that foot above the ground, that trail foot, and you're just going to kick up and try to get that foot on the wall. And you'll try to get both feet on the wall. If you don't land there the first time, that's a-okay. This tick-tock motion is where you'll need to practice for a while before you're ready to get steady on the wall. But let's get up on the wall so I can explain some of this to you. Once you're up on the wall, what you're gonna wanna do is bend one knee, keep one foot flat on the wall, and then bring one foot straight up like you're in handstand. And from here, you can find proper alignment so that you can periodically take the other foot off the wall. That way you don't find an arch in the back unnecessarily, and you're not relying on the wall too heavily like this in banana backing. So back against the wall is something that you can practice all the time, anywhere you go. It's perhaps the easiest and most versatile way to practice handstands if you're a beginner. Let's get into our second exercise. This one's a little more advanced. You're gonna start by sitting your hips up against the wall. You're gonna see where your heels are in front of you, and you're gonna put your hands right there. You're gonna swing your feet around and put your hands shoulder distance apart. And then you're gonna walk your feet back up the wall and find a 90-degree angle between your hands, your hips, and the wall. Now this should be a position that's pretty hard to hold, honestly. You're gonna take whichever leg you kicked up with last time and send it toward the sky. This way, you're facing away from the wall and you've got full body, proper alignment, and you're ready to practice handstand in the middle of the room. You can take that foot that's sticking on the wall, and when you feel steady with your core and your opposite leg reaching straight into the sky, you can just toggle that foot off the wall and practice as you feel comfortable. So like I said, the second drill is a lot more advanced, but it helps you keep proper alignment a little bit better. Back against the wall, you may have a tendency to collapse the low back a little bit so that the feet can reach the wall. But when your belly is facing the wall instead, you're gonna be way more apt to find proper alignment with a straight line of engagement all the way from your wrists down to the tips of your toes. So hopefully this has been helpful for you today in your pursuit of a static standalone handstand. Remember, the warm-up is just as important as the drills themselves, and good luck to you on your handstand journey. Thanks again for watching.